CMHC says that the number of mortgages in arrears are at historic lows. If you're like me, this might have been a bit of a surprise to you as well. So in this video, we'll go over this article from stories.com and talk about why after home prices have risen and fallen and interest rates have gone through the roof, that the number of Canadians behind on mortgage payments are at an all-time low, and whether we can expect to see that number rise in the future. If you're new to these videos, my name is Jessie McClellan and I'm a realtor with the Lisa Abbott team in Oshawa, Ontario. I do my best to give you an unfiltered perspective on what's happening in our real estate market, especially in my local market of Oshawa and Durham region. If that's something you're interested in, then please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. So this article is referring to comments made by CMHC's current president and CEO, Romy Bowers, who spoke at the House of Commons Standing Committee on Monday, October 30th. CMHC stands for the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, so their data is a pretty large sample size of Canadians with insured mortgages. In this article, she talks about the number of mortgages in arrears, which is referring to the number of Canadians with an insured mortgage through CMHC who have missed payments for 90 days or longer. At the beginning of the article, she says that we are a mortgage insurer, so we have a pretty good sense of the state of the mortgage market by monitoring our balance sheet, and we're very conscious of the impact that high interest rates are having on Canadians. According to CMHC, there are currently around 6,000 households with the highest risk mortgages, and that translates to about 2% of all mortgages insured by CMHC. Bowers said that those 6,000 some odd households are at the greatest exposure of loss, but she also said that she doesn't believe the country is in for a wave of mortgage defaults. However, a large spike in unemployment could change that. Our arrears are at historic lows, and as long as the employment picture is strong, we do not anticipate defaults. She also stated that the number of Canadian mortgages in arrears is now at 0.25%, and that number is down from 0.5% in December of 2022. That's a number that surprised me, especially when we look at data from Equifax Canada on Canadian mortgage arrears, which covers both insured and non-insured mortgages. It shows that mortgage arrears are near historic lows, but it shows the opposite trend. In Q4 of 2022, mortgage arrears in Canada were at just 0.14%, the lowest they've been in over a decade, but the most recent data in Q3 of 2023 shows it's increased slightly to 0.15%. And if you're unfamiliar with what an insured versus an uninsured mortgage means, when you're buying a home with less than 20% down, you require mortgage insurance. And if you're purchasing a home with more than 20% down, the mortgage doesn't need to be insured. So it makes sense that insured mortgages are more at risk than uninsured mortgages, given the difference in down payment and how that would translate to the monthly cost as well. But I was a little surprised to see it being that far off and trending in a different direction. Towards the end of the article, Bowers says the number is very low, partly because house prices continue to increase in some markets, people have more equity, and the employment picture for homeowners, at least, is very strong. And the last couple of paragraphs touch on what I was thinking while reading through this article. Despite the fact that mortgage arrears are reportedly down, it's certainly worth noting that many borrowers are tapping into longer mortgage amortization periods, an option that's now being offered quite commonly by lenders, so long as the initial down payment has been made, which is helping to keep heads above water. RBC has said that 43% of their residential mortgages now have amortization periods that exceed 25 years, and TD Bank is even higher with 48% of their mortgages exceeding the 25 years. I think it's safe to say without a doubt that if banks and lenders weren't working with consumers to help keep them afloat during these higher interest rate periods, the number of mortgages in arrears would be much higher. The one main factor that Bowers said would impact mortgage arrears the most was the unemployment rate. And while that is certainly true, I'm also interested in the amount of mortgages that are coming up for renewal over the next 3 years. According to an RBC analyst, around 60% of all outstanding mortgages with the Canadian chartered banks will be up for renewal during the next 3 years. I know that a lot can happen in 3 years, and when that time comes, interest rates could be down by then, but I think it's likely that even when interest rates start to come down, it will happen slowly and probably not at the same fast pace we saw them climb. And according to the information in this Financial Post article I found, over the next 18 months, it's estimated that 3.4 million Canadians will renegotiate their mortgages. That's a significant amount of mortgages that will almost certainly be renewing at a much higher rate. According to an RBC report, homeowners renewing their mortgages in 2024 through 2026 could see payment increases from 30% to nearly 50% higher if rates remain high. So we're near an all-time low for Canadians behind on their mortgage payments, and we're heading into a period where millions of homeowners will be renewing at higher interest rates. They'll see increased payments, and some of them who extended their amortization beyond 25 years may face additional financial pressure if they're forced to revert back to a 25-year period. Considering all of that, I think it's likely we'll see the number of mortgage arrears rise over the next 3 years. So does this mean that we see a big market correction because of more power of sales and bank sales hitting the market? Well, I don't think so, and here's why. Currently, we're sitting at a 0.15% mortgage delinquency rate in Canada. Yes, we will probably see that increase in the future. However, if we look at the data from previous years, we could double the amount of mortgages in arrears and we still would be less than we were in 2012. And I know a lot of people like to compare our current market to what the US experienced in 2008, and that maybe we're following a similar trend, but in 2008, Canada had a 0.29% delinquency rate, while the US had an astronomical 7.8% delinquency rate. Although we're going to see a lot of people renewing their mortgages next year at higher rates, these homeowners were stress tested when they purchased, so most of them theoretically should be able to afford the increased payments, or at least are able to afford 2% higher than the rate they currently have. Many of these homeowners that have renewals coming up next year would have purchased in or before 2019. In my market of Durham region, our average price was $577,000 in January of 2019. As it sits currently, even after all the ups and downs we've experienced, we're still at $907,000, which is 57% higher. So most of these homeowners are not in a position where if they were forced to sell their home, that it would be worth significantly less than they paid for it, and they'd be forced to let the bank take over the property. Instead, if they do hit a point of feeling financial pressure to sell, they can likely sell their home themselves or traditionally and likely not lose any money in the process. And it's also important to factor in fixed mortgage rates. The Bank of Canada doesn't necessarily have to lower the interest rates for us to see lower fixed rates being offered. If the general consensus starts to shift towards thinking the Bank of Canada is done with its rate hikes and the feeling becomes that the rate drops are on the horizon, we could see bond yields drop and fixed rates being offered by lenders start to drop as the market starts pricing in a rate decrease in the future. We saw this happen in the spring where the Bank of Canada paused rates in March, and we saw a drop in fixed mortgage rates for a few months, and we've recently seen a small drop in bond yields again, and it's expected we'll see a small decrease to fixed rates being offered over the next few weeks. But as we saw earlier in the year, that can also change very quickly. My final thoughts on this are, yes, I think we will see the number of Canadians who are behind on mortgage payments increase over the next few years. No, I don't think we're going to see a massive increase to power of sale or bank-owned sales, at least not right away. I think most of the homeowners that are unfortunately going to be in an unfortunate position will be able to sell their home and hopefully come out of it a little bit ahead. We've seen a small increase to power of sale properties, but we're at such a low number that I don't think we're going to see them accumulating enough to put much more downward pressure on prices. I think the interest rates alone, plus the sellers who are selling their home before it ever reaches the point of a bank taking over, are doing that job right now. Unless we see an unexpected drop in rates, there's a good chance we see more listings coming up next year that are homeowners trying to sell before their renewal, and that could keep things trending in a similar direction we're seeing now. This could become more of a problem in 2025 and beyond if rates stay high, or if we see increases to unemployment. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in a comment below. And if you like this video, hit that like button, and if you'd like to stick around to see our market update for Durham region, which will be coming out next week, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I hope you found this video interesting or helpful. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next one next week. Bye!